Good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome to the weekly Pora Report, your one-stop shop for all things Legends of Runeterra. As always, I am Smithel, along with my co-host Kozer, and once again, we would like to welcome back to our show. Our guest this week is Casanova. So, Cass, how's it going, buddy?
Pretty good, man. I'm pretty excited. I have a lot of stuff coming up very soon, LOR related, so I'm happy to be here on the show tonight to maybe talk about a couple things.
Yeah, it sounds like an exciting time for you for sure, and I don't want to jump the gun too much on it, but we're definitely happy that you opted to come back and kind of talk to us and let us know what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always glad to jump through when I'm in the neighborhood, which I guess is always because we're on the internet. But so I'm always down to pop on a couple pods and talk about Legends of Runeterra, whether I have news or not. I'm always down to come through and talk on what's going on.
Awesome. Well, speaking of what's been going on, how have things been? What have you been up to since you were last on the show, which is probably about 3 months ago? I mean, other than the glorious mustache that you've grown since then. What else have you been doing?
So I guess there was the major transition from being player to caster. I think that's like one of the big things that most people who listen probably will be aware of that change. They probably wouldn't even remember that I was originally in this game to be a competitive player with all the casting that I've been doing. But other than that, I was picked up to be the content coordinator for Giant Slayer TV for specifically Legends of Runeterra. So got a nice job in the Runeterra space and have been working on a bunch of things over there with them. So everything's been good. Got a little bit of a move coming up this weekend, so a little bit stressed out right now, but everything's been solid. Everything's been solid.
Yeah, moving is definitely the pits for sure. But so you talked a little bit about casting and making that transition. You've actually casted quite a bit of tournaments. Is there any that you would say have been your favorite to cast, or ones that you've really enjoyed? Whenever you started to make that transition into the new role that you've decided to kind of take up?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of tournaments that have been very fun. The first one that I did was the Korean Invitational. We did the rebroadcast with that. I did that with Astrogation, and that was incredibly fun to do. Just because it was the first one, and there was a lot of really cool production that we got to witness, and a lot of great plays. But recently, Runeterra for Change was great because of the fact that it was for charity, so I love doing that. But honestly, when I go for favorites, it's just any time that I get to cast with Blevins. Recently, it's been my favorite time. I feel like we just have great banter, and it's always a lot of fun to cast with him. He's a new friend that I made in Legends of Runeterra. I didn't really know him too well beforehand, and we got together and have made some pretty great content. So I all these casts with Blevins have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, he definitely seems like a good guy. I've caught a lot of your casts, and they are for sure enjoyable. But let's talk a little bit about casting. I mean, you being somebody that's been kind of on both ends of the spectrum for gaming, whether it be a professional player in games and now a caster for Legends of Runeterra, would you have any advice for people that are considering getting into casting or trying to get their foot in the door in that way? What should they go about doing, or what should they be really aiming to try to focus on to improve their opportunities?
I mean, the first step is always to just do it, right? So right now in Legends of Runeterra, most of these open tournaments are allowing anybody to come in and cast. You can come in and just you co-stream the other streamers, and you can cast over the games. And that's what you should be doing if you're interested in casting. You should be getting practice in while we're at a time in the game where all the biggest events, because these opens are the biggest events, are actually open to everybody coming in and trying their hand at casting. So I absolutely recommend that you just start out by doing it. I think watching VODs or any training videos from casters is very good to do, to kind of get an idea of what finding your cadence, finding your voice, right? It's important to find your particular voice, how you want to sound on the cast to make it as enjoyable as you can. And listening to other commentators and getting some inspiration from them is always good. On top of that, just make sure you know the game. You got to know the game inside and out. Know the names of cards. Know interactions. Know what's good. Try and be good at the game. I know that's kind of a weird piece of advice, but For casting a card game in particular, understanding the different intricacies, I think, is a lot more important than a lot of other games.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think a lot of people just assume, oh, if you're casting, it's easy to sit there and say, oh, player one played this, player two played this, they win. But like you said, is like with you and Blevins, there has to be some sort of back and forth. There has to be some banter. There has to be a way to keep it entertaining and educational for folks that are maybe trying to learn why certain players are playing one way or another. So it seems like it could be a fine line to walk.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think Runeterra is a very interesting game to cast because my original start for casting was a League of Legends collegiate scene, and I was a play-by-play caster. So casting play-by-play in collegiate or for a MOBA is I'm talking about what's happening on the screen and hyping up all these different plays that the players are making. But when it comes to a card game, I can't just sit here and be a play-by-play caster and talk about, oh, he played X card and now he's going to attack with X card. That's not exciting. There's nothing like you guys would all be falling asleep watching my cast. You have to find another line where the play-by-play isn't so much play-by-play anymore, but now it's two color commentators finding ways to bounce off each other. And I think that's the interesting thing that Blevins and I have found, and it requires a lot more synergy than a lot of other games. So if you're looking to cast, find someone else who's looking to cast and start working together, finding that banter, finding that synergy. And then from there, you can find ways that you can then collaborate with anybody.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad that you mentioned co-casting with somebody, because I know whenever I was doing casting for the amateur Heroes of the Storm scene, that was something that I was very intimidated by. I was trying to go in and cast by myself initially. And so having the co-caster and getting somebody to talk to definitely builds you up and get you a little more prepared to go ahead and start tackling these things on your own. But yeah, it's awesome advice, and hopefully some people can get some good takeaways from it. So maybe and again, I don't want to go on too long, but we originally were going to say it was going to be a slow news week here for the game, but this afternoon they released essentially what's going to be coming up in the next 4 patches, 1.4 through 1.7. And granted, they didn't sit there and say here's all the card balance changes and everything that are coming up, but they did say more of an outline, and it kind of reflects as to what we heard a couple weeks ago in the video. So what we're going to do is just do a quick rundown here of what players and people can expect in the upcoming patches. And, Cass, I'd love to get, your thoughts on if any of these game modes or anything like this seem interesting to you. So let's start with maybe patch 1.4 here. So this is the one that's going to be coming out next week. I know we're all kind of getting ready, trying to get our final ranked matches in and try to climb. But it's patch 1.4. It's going to include a partial rank reset. You're going to get your Season of Plunder icon rewards, which we covered before. They did say there's going to be, quote unquote, a bunch of personalization options, which I'm excited about. I'm always down for more emotes and card backs and boards and all that stuff. I like that. And then there's going to be the competitive game mode, Gauntlet, and Master Tier LP changes. So let's talk about Gauntlets first. This is one of those things that's going to be beginning on June 26th. It's going to be weekend events, so about 4 days in length. And it's going to change every week between formats. Now, what I thought was kind of cool about it is they announced that just for participating in the Gauntlet mode, you're going to get an icon. But if you make it to 7 wins in any particular Gauntlet, because it seems like they're going to be rotating them through in some fashion or another, you're going to get the chance to earn an exclusive Gauntlet Conqueror icon. So, that was something that I don't think they said before, but did come up. So, Gauntlets, is that something that would appeal to you at all, Cass? Or, is this just more of a casual thing or something that maybe you'll jump into occasionally?
I think this is a great first step towards competitive. I think that the Gauntlet mode could lead to a potential in-tournament client or in-client tournament mode. So I do think that this is an awesome thing to see. I'm really excited for Gauntlets. I think it's more content in the game. It's more exciting to play. Maybe you've hit your ladder goals for the season. You don't really feel like you have too much reason to play other than just like a couple games for enjoyment. Nothing to strive towards. And now every weekend you're going to have Gauntlets that you can go in and try and get the 7 wins. And I think Gauntlet, for a lot of people will be a lot more exciting than maybe grinding expeditions. Some people just don't like expeditions whatsoever. Here's another option. You can go in, have a competitive edge. It feels like playing a tournament, whether, depending on the different formats, but different formats I think are super fun in card games. I like to have some for fun formats, and I think Gauntlet is a good balance because I think there will be some like standard competitive formats that seem really, really good, and there will be, on the other hand, some very for fun formats, but even then it's for fun, so you go play it, have a good time. I think Gauntlets are awesome. It's something that, my weekends are generally quite busy, but I think I'm going to make time for Gauntlets. I think it sounds really fun to me. It's something I want to do. So I'm going to set aside time, and it might even be stream content for me where I actually, recently I haven't streamed other than just casts, but Gauntlets sound pretty fun to me to actually stream and go through those. So I think that's something I'm very interested in.
Yeah. And again, I think the thing that interests me about Gauntlets too is that it is a format change that goes on. So the first one they did say is going to be standard deck building rules, but then the one after that, they said it's going to be no more than one copy of any given card could be in your deck. So I think it gives people a chance to really experiment with their deck building abilities and trying to figure out, how do I have to think about cards and interactions in ways that maybe I haven't done before. So I think that's exciting. And then, you're obviously going to have those folks that are just like achievement hunters or trophy hunters that have to get the conqueror type of icons just as a way to kind of show off. So I think it's kind of cool. I think it has a little bit of something for everybody. Now I know Kozo, no, you're not an expedition fan. Is this something that you think would benefit you?
I'll probably play it. Like, I'm definitely gonna get into it, like, a little bit. Like, I do kind of find sometimes the ladder grind can be a little much this season, unless I really go hard this weekend. Looks like I'm getting that cool plat icon we talked about last week. Just because I've had too many side projects. I haven't really had enough time to really grind, and when I do play a couple games, my deck doesn't really work out, then I try to come back another day to do it. But like I've had other things that I've needed to do the past couple weeks, and it's about my workload's about to get a little busier. So this mode will probably help me out because it's seven games. If I don't know how it works, if it's like Expedition, if it's 2 losses then you're out.
Yeah, I don't think I've said anything about that yet.
That's the only thing I don't know yet. If it's going to be like that, like, yeah, sure. Like, I can put aside, basically this will be, about an hour? Maybe an hour and a half to get through a gauntlet.
You can probably get through 2 hours. Yeah, it's probably not too bad, because that's about what an expedition takes to get to 7.
I assume it is the same format of Expedition as far as the losses are concerned, but that could be incorrect.
Who knows?
I mean, we'll see very soon. As I believe the first one's on the 26th, right? I think that's what we talked about. So
yeah.
I expect it to be the same as Expedition as far as the losses, but I am interested to see if that is the case.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and also to add on to it, because I was muted and I wasn't talking before, but I looked back to see how long it's been since Casanova's been on the show. It's been 4 months. He was our first guest on the show after we released our pilot episode 0.
That's crazy. It's been a big one. It's been a long time, so it's exciting.
Almost 20 episodes pretty soon. Next week.
So before we move, and not to kind of get off of the reminiscing, but before we move on to the next section for patch 1.4, Kage did ask in Twitch chat, he wonders if there's going to be an entry fee or anything like that. I don't know if there's going to be an entry fee. I don't think that they said anything. I can't imagine there is. Maybe a token or something like that, like an expedition token. But from what I understand is I haven't heard anything about there being any fees, but it's going to be time gated, like I said, for 4 days. And then you get a reward if you make it to 7. So, it doesn't seem like you can get anything except for maybe based on the image in the post. Bonus XP, how far you get. But, I think it's just if you play, you get the icon. If you get 7 wins, you get the bonus icon. And then you go from there. So, I guess we'll just have to wait a week and we'll know for sure.
Yeah, but the next part is so much more important anyway.
Yes, I agree.
It's the moment we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, so again, in patch 1.4, they are making a ladder changes for master and the master rank, and this is something that has been a area of contentions for a long time. Myself being, even though I got into master and beta, I was there for literally 12 hours before the reset. So it's something that I've been in masters now for a little bit, and I get the frustration. I fully understand what you guys were going through. So basically, they set up the new system. When you first enter Master's rank, you're going to get a initial LP amount based upon your MMR relative to other players in Masters. And then from there, you're going to go up and down an LP. And there's going to be multiple factors that kind of contribute into that, such as your MMR, your opponent's MMR, how much LP you actually have compared to everybody else in Masters. And they said it's typically going to be plus or minus, 15 to 25 LP swings or changes. So I like the system. I think it's going to be better. I know for sure it's kind of rough whenever you see yourself drop, 100 ranks per match, 200 ranks per match, and then only win and get like 50, 60 back.
Yeah, so actually, I did another podcast a couple of days ago, and before this announcement came out, and this is the exact system that I said I think would be the best for Legends of Runeterra. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very happy with this change. I think that this is probably the best way that you can go for a card game. I don't think that card games lend themselves to any format being great for ranked. So in my opinion, just an LP system where you can grind points is the best way, because it rewards you for having a high win rate over a high number of games. So it rewards people who want to grind the ladder and do so with a good win rate. And I think that's incredibly important compared to like an ELO system where you literally will reach a point where you can't climb and you'll lose too much, which is basically where we were at with the current system. Is it was the equivalent of what ELO would have been. Whereas this LP system, I think, is a lot better. It opens us up to potentially get Grandmaster and Challenger, which I would absolutely love to have in this game. I love everything about it. I'm a huge fan of this change.
Now, do you think that there's going to be any kind of LP or MMR decay in a way? So, like, I know there's so many players that basically they get in and they get, top 10 or, top 100 in the current system and then just stop playing ranked and they can't drop. They're just sitting at that rank. Do you think that there's going to be anything that's going to help with that? So if somebody gets to, I don't know, is there a max LP or would it just kind of keep going up?
No, it just go forever.
Okay.
LP will just continue.
Okay, that's the way I kind of thought of it too. So okay, good. So essentially, if you just get in and don't do anything, you're not moving.
More with this, basically, that's the best way to describe it. Is camping. Well, I mean, you can camp ladder, but the person has to be very, very far ahead because people will be able to see and catch up. That's the big, the big changes about this. This is so that BBG or someone can't just get it, then go play EU for like 2 weeks because people will be able to see, oh shit, all I have to do is win possibly about 15 games, get at least 15 LP per and I could be rank 1. Like
G'day Maverick has been rank 1 in EU. Camping, he hasn't played a game since like week 1 of Rising Tides, and he's held rank 1 in EU. I don't blame him. If I was rank 1, I wouldn't play a game either. I would sit there, but he has camped it and he has held it the entire time. So, and that's problematic, right? Like that's why this change is so good. You'll be able to get past. I think that it didn't say anything about decay, Smithel, but I do think that that's something that is important and I hope gets added in the future. I think even with this system, which does stop camping from being what it is now, I think that LP decay is a good thing to have in your game. I think people who are grinding shouldn't be able to just sit at a spot. They should need to at least play a set number of games. It doesn't have to be a large number, but some number of games to prevent themselves from decaying.
Yeah, I mean, and not to talk too much about other games not here too, but in Valorant, just looking at another Riot game, they did say something, and I forget the time frame, but if you don't play ranked within a certain amount of time, you actually do start getting decay, and they don't even show your rank. So you'll jump into a game, and it'll hide it for 1 or 2 ranks, and then you'll play, and it'll say, okay, now here's where you're at. So, I mean, I would love to see something similar implemented, where it's, hey, look, if you don't play ranked for 2 weeks, you're going to start dropping, and it get exponentially faster the longer you sit on it. So, I think it's good. At least this is a step in the right direction, it seems.
Do you think that's as important for anything but master rank though? Because like I honestly don't think like rank decay needs to be in like
No.
anything
Yeah.
No.
lower than master.
I think
Like,
it's fun if it would only be in master.
Yeah.
yeah, I just think it's
Because
only
you don't have
unfair.
teammates that you potentially could be griefing by hitting gold and then not playing for like a year
Yeah.
and then coming back in. I think
Yeah.
it's more so for just competitive integrity of the master ladder. I think that having decay would be quite nice. But with this system, to be fair, with this LP system change, it's possible that decay is unnecessary. We'll see how it ends up working out. Because it is very possible to me that maybe decay doesn't actually matter at all anymore at this point. So I really like this change because I think this is going to be a really great step. It actually might make ladder feel like something that is worth grinding out again. And I'm very excited for that.
Yeah,
It's the first time I've actually seen Masters Discord agree with a change to Masters. Honestly, this has been number one contention that gets brought up almost every so couple patches, or anytime they even mention something about they're going to be doing something to Masters. I saw positive things today, and honestly, even after I read it, I was like, I mean, it seems like it's a great step in the right direction, but I still thought I was going to see a couple of people say, this is crap, this is still not enough. But honestly, everyone was kind of on the same page, thinking it's going to be a positive change, and they're excited to at least see where it's going. Like, we won't know until we play it a little bit and see how it is. Once people start hitting Masters again, we'll find out how the system works once there's about 1,000 Master players. Because once there's only like 20 or 30, I still don't think it's going to really help you that much. It's going to help you. It's going to help figuring out if it's a good change once there's a
mid to late season.
Yeah, we're going to start to notice it more. Anyways, let's move on to the next thing. I think we're good for this.
Yeah.
Unless Casa has anything to add.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't. So patch
No,
one. So patch 1.5. This is a pretty quick one. It's basically whenever they're going to release the labs game mode, and this is where they said it's that more casual, hectic type of game mode. So I'm excited to kind of see what they're doing with it, but we'll find out more in about a month, a little bit over. So the next one is patch 1.6, and there's something here, and I'm hoping Casanova, maybe you can explain it to me because I kind of missed some things. But so they did sit there and say that they're going to be implementing a cross shard friend challenge. What the heck is that? Like, did I miss this?
This is great. This is something that we've been asking for a while, especially in the tournament scene. This means that you should be able to challenge someone with your North American account against a European account or an Asian account or any other account. So by doing this is brilliant. I'm amazed that this is actually coming up. This is something that when we asked for in the past, it's been told that it'd be quite the challenge. It might take quite a while. It might not even come out this year. And they're saying 1.6 is coming out, which is just a few months down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So this is amazing. This, as someone who is now going to be running tournaments, this is so incredibly nice for me because it does mean that I can run cross-region tournaments very
awesome.
easily. It doesn't matter if the players have accounts on both sides. Because they can challenge cross-region. So this is a great change, something I absolutely wanted. Early on in the game's existence, I had to pass up a European tournament because I didn't have an account. That's something that would never have to happen again because I could play cross-server. So this is
awesome.
absolutely a great change.
That's awesome.
I love this change. This change is, well, it's going to help me too because of the projects, the extracurricular projects I'm working on too. This is going to be awesome. And honestly, I'm not positive on this. Is this one of the few card games that has this, or is this popular in most of the other card games? Because I haven't played really Hearthstone that much, and I know you used to play tournaments in that, Casa. Did they have Cross Shard?
I don't believe Hearthstone had Cross Shard. It's possible they have it now, but when I played, they did not have Cross Shard.
Yeah, like I feel like this is super important. Like I think this is something that I know we all ask for, but it's like a lot of games will be like, oh, whoa, cross-platform, oh, region platform, we can't do that. But like honestly, like again, to get off topic about other games, like I think this is part of the reason why Call of Duty has actually been popular is because they didn't do, yes, they still have region locks, but they also opened it up to Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. And when games do stuff like this, like no region locks, you can play with any friends, it just opens up a whole new thing. And maybe we're going to get more people to come from other card games in to come and play, because tournaments are going to be a lot easier to be able to play in. You don't have to worry about where you live to play in whatever tournament, because you can play on your main account and not have to worry about grinding 3 or 4 different accounts, have people sign on to a VPN just to make an account for you. Like, it's nuts.
I think this is nice then, because now understanding what it is, it's to me at least showing that they're taking serious the competitive nature of this game. You know, it's not something that they're just brushing off as like a smaller Riot entity, but they're sitting here saying, look, we're putting stuff in game to make a competitive scene or make a tournament scene something that is viable and something that is easy to access and easy to understand. So yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really cool for the competitive folks. But apart from that, again, 1.6, the only other things that they stated is that it is going to be the kickoff of the first in-game event. They didn't say what it's going to be named or the themed or anything like that, but they did say before, events are essentially, they described it as a month-long thematic experience, and it's going to have new labs, special quests, personalization items, and more. If you play any League of Legends or anything like that, they have events all the time, and I assume it's going to be the same or similar to those where you have special quests to do, and there's essentially a battle pass, and you just kind of keep progressing up through it, and you get rewards for various levels. So, you know, it'll be cool. You know, again, as somebody likes personalization and things to kind of strive and work towards, that's okay with me. The final thing is patch 1.7, and this is another thing that people have been asking for, and I'm kind of sad it's not coming out until 1.7, but you'll be able to select what card art is going to be on your deck in your deck library, which is awesome, because I'm tired of having like 4 decks with Hecarim on the front, just right next to each other, and going, oh shit, which one's in this again?
This is going to be huge. This was a much needed change. Yeah. I really think that this is super cool.
Yeah, so that'll be cool.
Change, obviously.
Yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. And so I did have hair. I actually shaved my head this week, so the hair's gone.
Yeah, I shaved today. I had like huge beard, and he shaved his head. So yeah, we don't have as much hair today.
But so let's go into the decks of the week. So typically we do like one deck highlight, and we ask our our guests to come on and bring a deck that they're excited to talk about. What we want to do this week is something slightly different, just because we are getting to the very, very end of the season, and some people are trying to climb. We wanted to maybe highlight 3 decks that we believe are good opportunities for you guys to climb with. Maybe not go into super detail with everything, but maybe what the deck is, why we recommend it, and why we think you'd be able to climb with it in the coming days. So I know, Cass, we have your kind of deck here first. If you want to kind of give us a quick rundown on that.
Yeah, so I mean the main deck, I know you guys have one linked in here that's a completely good version, is just the archetype of They Who Endure. I think the mostly mono SI run a couple failure cards, generally just They Who Endure and the Fury of the North are the important ones. Sometimes we see Omen Hawks and Sentries as well. I think in the version we're providing, it does have Omen Hawk and Sentry, but there's a million ways to run Endure right now, but I think the archetype itself is probably the best in the game. There's another deck that actually you brought, Smithville, that it would have been the other one that I would recommend, and I'll let you get into that one later. But yeah, Endure is just incredibly powerful right now because there's a lot of great aggro tools that are had by Shadow Isle, so you're able to win without your Endure a lot of times in the early game, but if you don't, Endure can come down later on and finish out the game. It has great matchups across the board. I write for the Tempo Storm meta snapshot, and we had Endure and Elusive Burn, which Smithville brought as our 2 S-tier decks. The first time we put S-tier decks in our personal snapshot. I think they're both great for the latter. Endure, great matchups across the board other than Elusive Burn, and it's just a very, very powerful list.
Also, could we just stop and say how awesome that meta snapshot is? Like, we talked about it maybe a month ago or so, whenever you first put it out, the very first one, and I could not speak highly enough about that. I mean, so many times you see deck lists and it's just, oh, okay, here's the deck played, it's good. But the way you break it down and sit there and say, here's what it's good, here's what it's bad against, and here's how you play these decks was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So,
Yeah.
kudos to all you guys who are involved with that.
I appreciate that. It's a big team of a lot of really great players, and so we spread out the decks and we talk about them for a long time. Our last meeting I think went 5.5 hours before we spread out to actually write the articles. So we take a lot of time to get those in-depth reads, and we're pretty proud of the product that we can put out. So I do think that Endure overall great deck right now. We've seen play. The one we had for Tempo's version was running Sejuani, which is good against the Endure list. It has some matchups that are a little bit worse, but Sejuani plus Collector is a cool combination that you can try if maybe you don't like Elise. If you want to take her out and put in Sejuani. Sejuani Collector has some pretty cool combinations where the Collector, of course, can then freeze the whole board once you level Sejuani. So there's a lot of cool ways that you can play it. I recommend you experiment, check out different lists across the internet. Because I think Endure is really awesome and versatile right now, and it's definitely one of the best decks.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's probably my favorite deck, and I was planning on coming in and bringing this one to talk about just because it's one of my favorite ones to play, and it does perform surprisingly well against a lot of stuff. So I'm glad that we're covering it, but I think people will do real good if you really try to climb with this, and I know it's on Swim's channel is one that he recommended for his YouTube of how to hit master in 7 days kind of thing. So
and his snapshot is great too. The one he does on Mobalytics is amazing as well. There's a lot of really great LOR content for people to go out and look at. I think
Agreed.
It's wonderful.
Agreed. So let's move on to the next one here is Kozer.
Yeah, I mean, it has fallen down a little bit, but this is Weimer, and I know we've talked about it on the show already. I think we talked about it with Windmage, if I remember correctly. But it's pretty hard deck to pilot, in my opinion, because there's a lot of... you need to see your lines properly, because if you don't play your lines properly, you can kind of screw yourself over. And I know I've misplayed this deck a couple of times, so it's a hard deck to play, but once you figure it out, it's really, really good. There's been some extra stuff like Deep Meditation now can also make some elusive units, and there's been some extra stuff that kind of like buff the deck a little bit. But honestly, it's fallen down a little bit just because of how good Tempo in Endure is. Endure, like to add on that, it's a good idea to play, but be careful about what you're playing against, because when I played it a little while ago to try to climb, everyone was playing it, and I literally played 3 mirror matches in a row. And then you don't want to play it anymore. So that's when I think we're going to switch into... Everyone's seen Weimer. Weimer's been around for, honestly, like months. So I think we'll go into the next deck a little bit more, because I think it's a little bit more exciting to talk about, and it also does counter Endure. So let's go into that.
I think Smithel's deck here, and he'll talk about it in just a second.
You guys both can
be showing it.
Yeah.
But Smithel's deck here is the only deck that we said had a favorable matchup against Endure, and it had a very favorable matchup against Endure. I think that this is quite good. So go ahead, Smithel.
Yeah. So again, I'll do this at a high level because I mean, Kaz, you guys definitely probably milled about this significantly more than I did. But so the reason why the Endure deck right now is such a good deck is, as we kind of talked about, it has multiple win conditions. I mean, you can sit there and get your Aatrox off of a Endure. You can sit there and drain people out. You can actually out aggro a lot of decks with it. So I mean, it's a great deck. But this deck kind of just sits there and says, "Hey, look, we're not going to give a shit about anything. We're going to try to burn your face, but we're going to do it in a little bit more of a creative way than the old burn deck did." And in this deck, it's one that I would recommend maybe taking it into normals for a mode or two first. Just to really get an idea of how it plays. But really what you're trying to do is it's an elusive burn deck, which has been around for a little bit, but it gives enough options to kind of keep bouncing cards in and out of your hand to get maximum benefit from it. And so what I mean by that is, so let's say you have your Crimson Disciple down, you can play your Imperial Demolitionist, you can retreat it, play it again. You can then sit there and use your Navori Conspirator. You can bring it up that way, your Solitary Monk. Whenever you play Navori Blade Scout, a lot of people say, okay, it's down. I get my one elusive drop off of it. And then it's just a blocker. But you can sit there and pull it back into hand and play it again. And it gives you a lot of options to get off damage relatively early. without being blocked or without having to force your units or to play your units and then have to use them as blockers themselves. Basically to survive, you're putting out quite a bit of damage early, and then you're kind of just finishing with decimate or doing something like that. Obviously, there's opportunities to not only use Will of Ionia on threats that you face, but also as an aggressive tool, and to again keep bouncing things on board, off board, on board, off board. And really get the maximum benefit on it down too. I know whenever you played the old burn deck, a lot of times whenever you would put something down, you'd use it as a blocker and say, okay, it's screwed. I have to do this or else I'm going to take lethal damage. But this way you can put something as a blocker, pull it back in your hand, still save the damage from hitting on the attack, and then continue to play and get benefit from your cards. So you're really maximizing the benefit of every card that comes out multiple times in best case scenario. So this is a very, very good deck. Like I said, with Swim and so many people recommending Endure, you're going to see it a lot on ladder. That I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this deck, especially in the coming days.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think one of the reasons it's so good against Endure in particular is because Endure, in becoming the best deck in the game, also became a lot more honest. It runs a lot less spells. It's very minion heavy. It's very much just a ton of units and then like some Glimpse Beyonds and Atrocities. For the most part, it doesn't generally run a whole ton of spells. And because of this, your elusives get to basically go on the board uncontested, unfazed, and you outrace Endure in the early game. They're generally better about controlling the board via these minions and these small units that can chump block and then become much larger units. Doesn't work out that way when you just go over the top with elusive. So the elusive burn deck is absolutely incredible against Endure. You could probably play some kind of Freljord elusives and it would be good against Endure as well. But this deck's just better than that Freljord elusive list.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of decks and a lot of things and opportunities that I think you guys can use to climb. Hopefully between these three, like I said, we got one that is very, very strong right now. We've got a good counter to it, and then we got one that's been in the meta for a while and still is very good. So I'm hoping maybe you guys that are listening to the show or on stream or watching the YouTube version of this will really find something that clicks with you, and maybe you'll be able to push into that next tier, whether it be from gold to plat, plat to diamond. Heck, even iron to bronze, whatever the case may be. Just know that there's options out there.
I like that. Yeah.
Hey, there may be new people to the game that just started this week and going, "Oh shit, how far can I get in like 3 days?"
The iron icon actually looks better than most of the other icons. So I would just stay in iron if I was you. Grind next season. But yeah, no, if I actually play this weekend, this is probably the deck that I'm actually going to bring. I'm going to probably try tempo, but if I notice that Endure is getting mirror matched, I'm not going to bother with it. I'm going to probably rotate between the two different decks and climb with it, but we'll see if the homie Air Mage can come through and co-play with me or Smithel, but I know we have some plans to play Valorant this weekend, so...
True. But so let's do this then. So we didn't want to spend too much on deck talk because again, Cass, as he stated at the beginning of the show, he has some pretty exciting news to share about some stuff that's going on. So we definitely want to open the floor up to you, Cass, and
let
give
me
you the
actually go first because I think Cass thing should let me just get the other tournament that went over last weekend that I just want to talk about done with.
Let's do it.
Then we'll go into Cass's thing. I probably should have told you before.
You're screwing me up. You're going out of show note order.
No, I didn't notice that you put that in there, or I probably would have put it after. That's bad.
Fine.
Let's do it because Runeterra for Change was an awesome event. So kick us off.
True.
All right. So for those of you that might have missed it, we had a Runeterra for Change that was a charity event. That there was an invitational on Friday. Saturday and Sunday were EU and NA open events. There was no prize pools for them. Any funds that were collected for the tournament went towards a I think it was Know Your Rights. Yes.
Know Your Rights camp. It's the Colin Kaepernick charity, the one he made to help Black and brown youths learn basically their rights against police. How to interact with law enforcement is what the camps are for.
Yeah.
Is the main goal of them. It's a really great charity. I was glad that we were able to do that event for it.
Yeah, I was really glad because I remember when we were talking about the tournament and stuff, they weren't exactly sure which one they were gonna go with, and I think they picked a really solid. I mean, they're all solid picks, but like I think this one just spoke out. And was really, really good. So for that tournament, before I get into who won and all that stuff, I actually wanted to bring up how much money we were able to raise for the tournament. So you gracious people were able to raise $1,257 for the tournament. All those donations went to the Know Your Rights camp. It went directly through it using the website Tiltify. Is it Tiltify? I read that wrong. So it was a really great event. I know Casanova streamed, I think it was the Invitational, then NA Open for Saturday and Sunday. Gems did the Saturday morning cast, and I got last minute. I wouldn't call it roped in, but I got last minute. I kind of had to help the homies because they couldn't really figure out OBS, so I did the production on Sunday for on the weekly Power Report for the EU top 8. So it was a good tournament. I was really happy with it. It was ran really well for how little time. Like there was a lot of planning ahead of time, but once stuff actually started becoming public, it had a really, really good turnout. I think NA, I can't remember how many people entered it. 184 was overall, but I think there was at least 100 and something for NA.
NA was over 100.
Yeah, like it is really good turnout. We thank everyone that played in it. Like considering there's no prize pool, I know sometimes that can turn people away from a tournament, but everyone banded together for the tournament, knowing that it was for a good cause, and it was a really awesome event. So let's go into who won each bracket. So, EU, this was actually the one that I was casting, so I got to see this. Maverick was playing a deep deck, and he fell to Kofu. Kofu, I think, was he Hearthstone or Magic? I know he comes from another game. I just can't remember. They were talking about it during the cast, and
it's probably Magic then.
I think it was Magic. And he had a really, really good event. He got second place, losing to just Pablo. And they were really close games. Like honestly, Kofu had a couple of turns that I think he made like one or two misplays, and if maybe he didn't make those misplays, it might have made a difference. But like honestly, really good event for someone that mostly plays Magic, and then I think is transitioning a little bit into LOR. If I remember, that's what his Twitch said. So yeah, it was a great event for EU. Let's go into NA now. I know you casted this a little bit more, Casa. So if you know some of the decks that were ran from the top 4 on, do you want to break that down a little bit?
So it was pretty interesting to see. So this is the opens. This is the Yotsuba win.
Yeah, Yotsuba. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Yotsuba was running a really cool lineup. I remember he was running Blood Riders, which is the Hecarim Vladimir list. This is something that was popularized by the Black Boss, who's a Brazilian player who's been pretty dominant in their scene. He hasn't really had a huge breakout performance in a full Americas tournament, but in their specific scene, he's been crushing everything. He won like 4 tournaments in a row in the Brazilian scene. So that deck was really cool to see finally win a tournament that was a little bit more widespread, a little bit of a larger tournament. Yotsuba was able to pick up that win. We also saw a lot of Sejuani MF in the top 4, which made me happy. But on top of that, it was just the week of Endure, which I said at the very start of the weekend. It was like, I expect to see so much Endure this weekend. And well, it absolutely came true. We saw a ton of Endure across the board.
Yeah, and to add a little bit more about that, like Kage's talking in chat. I forgot about the Brazilian stream too. That was Portuguese. Yeah,
yes,
it would have been
Portuguese cast.
Portuguese cast that was done by Victor Cav, Total, and Mr. Harry. So yeah, those guys are great guys. I love the Brazilian community. You guys are incredible. You guys put so much effort into this game. And I love it how hard you guys try in these tournaments. Like, honestly, I'm pretty sure 3 of the players in the top 4 here are actually Brazilian players. If I remember, I think it's Mr. Nice Guy, isn't he one of them? Leo
Mr.
Zera
Nice Guy's Brazilian, Leo Zera's
and
Brazilian.
Exia Yatsuba.
Wait, is Yatsuba Brazilian?
I thought he
Oh,
was.
I actually didn't
No,
know.
no, no, no. I don't think he is. I can't remember.
I didn't think he
No,
was, but
no,
I
no,
actually
he's not.
don't know.
He's not. He's not. He's not.
Okay.
Kage will probably say something in chat eventually, too. But I know Leo Zera is 100%, and I know Mr. Nice Guy is. Yeah, I know.
Leo's great. Leo Zera's great.
Oh,
He's a very, very good player. Super nice guy. I say nice guy. I haven't met Mr. Nice Guy. I actually don't know too much about him, but he did have a great performance in this tournament. Made it all the way to top 4, like you mentioned. So it was really, really well done. But Leo Zera is someone who is he's kind of a chronic 9th place placer. He misses out on top cut quite a bit, but barely misses out on top cut quite a bit. And he's a tournament grinder. He's been around forever. We've watched a ton of his games over time, and he's a very, very strong player.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Like, the top 8 cut. I feel like if it would have been a top 16 cut, if I remember, I think there would have been a couple more Brazilian players that would have made it in. Because I think Black Boss got kicked out because it was only top 8 and stuff. Like, I mean,
Yeah, he barely missed.
Yeah, he barely missed, and I think there was 2 others. I can't remember. I have to go back and look, but awesome for Yatsuba. I'm really, really excited to see more of the Brazilians in more of the NA tournaments, because I know how hard you guys grind, and I know how some of these prize pools make a huge difference for some of you guys. So I'm really excited, because I know we're part of the team that I'm working on. We're working on some big tournaments that I'll talk about in the future, because we don't have much information yet, and I can't divulge too much information yet. But I do know there's going to be some awesome events coming in the future that you guys will be super excited about and can really show off your skills, because you guys are awesome players. So let's go into.
Speaking of divulging information, unless we're doing are we doing the invitational?
Yeah,
still?
I just want to talk about the invitational quickly. You casted the whole thing, and I'll be honest, I was at work for the whole thing, so I didn't get to watch. Can you do this one and just talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, let me pull up the bracket real quick, but I do remember for the most part.
I could have sent it to you. It's up on screen if you just open up the podcast. Just go to the Masters Discord. The link's right in the announcements.
I got it. Okay, so yeah, this was I remember this was the Presto win. Presto made it all the way to the final. He played, I mean, spectacularly throughout the entire event. But the big surprise for me out of the Invitational was actually Archon. So Archon is another one of the Magic the Gathering kind of refugees over to LOR, and he's only been playing the game for about 3 weeks. And this was a very stacked Invitational. There was a lot of very good players. If we just look at this top 8, I mean, names that really stick out immediately are going to be, Good Day Maverick, Fresh Lobster, Presto, Nyx Makes Blaze, the Black Boss, Ian Noguera, all in here, right? Yatir is another great player, but so when you think about tournament play, a lot of these names you already think of. Nick doesn't play so many tournaments, but you do think of Ian Noguera, Fresh Lobster, Presto, Good Day Maverick as top tier tournament players. Same with Black Boss. Archon, if you follow the Runeterra scene, you might be thinking, who? Who is Archon? He's actually a Magic the Gathering. I believe he's a Magic the Gathering pro. I don't know his full success story, but I know he was quite good at Magic. He came over. He's been working his ass off. He's been grinding LOR, and he had a great run. He took down Ian Noguera, he took down Black Boss, and then he took a game off of Presto in the final. I mean, honestly, it was a really miraculous run that we saw from him. And although we did see a lot of his games, and I hesitate to say they were riddled with misplays, but there was a lot of misplays that we wouldn't expect from a lot of the more integrated players at this point. He still played exceptionally in a lot of spots that I would have expected a lot of players to make misplays when they are new to the game. And I am really excited to see how he progresses as he continues to play the game.
Yeah, I really agree with that. Like, I was able to actually watch the the finals. That was about it. Or one of the matches that I was able to watch Archon play, because you guys casted him a little bit, and honestly, I was super impressed too. I I'm excited to see him when he's played even more, because obviously the misplays, they were there. People were talking about it. People were laughing about it in chat. It was nowhere close to some of the plays that were done in Twitch Rivals. We won't go into that because that was just there was some like iron level plays in some of the games, but yeah, no, he did great. He really did, and I hope more of the MTG guys are gonna pop over. But yeah, I can't remember if he was pro in it or not. I think he was at least semi-pro or had competed on the circuit a little bit, because you got to remember MTG to stay relevant and stay pro. Like, oh my god, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's really hard to stay up there, and it's especially if you're playing paper as well. It's very expensive as well. It's a really expensive card game to be invested in. So it's yeah, yeah. I'm excited to see more players come over. But yeah, this is it for this tournament. Now I don't have a website or anything, so I'm gonna switch back to just all three of us, the podcast screen. And I'm gonna let Casanova take the floor to talk about the Giant Slayer stuff.
Yeah, so quickly, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I am the content coordinator for Giant Slayer LOR, the basically Legends of Runeterra division of Giant Slayer TV. We are super excited to finally be launching our product, essentially for LOR. We are launching with Fight Night. It's an IP that we've had for a long time, where we have shows in different games where we invite players out to basically compete for cash and glory. And so we're launching with Fight Night Legends. Our very first one will be June 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Will be the start time for that tournament. The full roster of players invited should be released on Monday, so get really hyped for that. Keep your eyes out on our Twitter, which Kozer will link below, but it's Giant Slayer LOR. We're super excited to launch this, but not only will we have that event, we'll also be having a tournament every 5 weeks for even more prizes. It will be an invitational as well, but it will be to a larger number of players, and the prize pool will be a hell of a lot more than our weekly tournaments.
Awesome.
So super excited for that. On top of that, we'll be launching a YouTube channel very soon. That will also be Giant Slayer LOR, where we will have both esports, where we have the highlights of different tournaments that we run, on top of educational short form content that we'll be releasing very, very soon, probably towards the end of this month. We'll be releasing our very first YouTube video. So get excited for all this. The content is going to be dope. I have Blevins working with me on the YouTube side, as well as being my co-caster for Fight Night. It will be myself and Blevins casting that tournament. So very excited to bring that product to you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, it seems like something that, a lot of people should be excited for. So, I'm very curious to see kind of who the full roster is for the week. I know, obviously, you can't divulge that at this point, but, it's knowing anything and knowing you and the work that you put into it. I know it should be a really exciting event and something to kind of to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super hyped for it. If people recognize the Fight Night kind of format from the past, they'll themselves kind of know a little bit of what's happening, but just know that it's kind of a King of the Hill style event. So people who win the event will be seen week in and week out, as long as they keep performing. So I'm very excited for it. And
that's awesome.
yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Like I said, well, we wish you kind of the best of luck with that, and I know we'll definitely be retweeting, doing whatever we can do to kind of help continue to bring focus on it, and ensure that you guys have a real solid launch here. But apart from that, I mean, Kozer, anything else for this week, or are we good to wrap this up, buddy?
No, basically, was just gonna say what you said. I'm really excited
Awesome.
for Giant Slayer LOR, and I'm really excited to watch the content weekly, because the tournaments won't be crazy long. I feel like I will be able to more so sit down and watch it. Like, I know I've sat down and watched some of the Giant Slayer TFT stuff just to support the boy Casanova and Crowan, but now that I'm not as involved with TFT, so it doesn't really hit home as much, and I don't understand the meta at all anymore. So seeing LOR tournaments, I think, are going to excite me a lot more, and I'm definitely going to be watching these. I think they're going to be fun events, and most other tournaments won't be really competing against it because a lot of tournaments are not ran on Friday. So I think it's going to be an exciting thing to always have something to watch on Friday. I know when you guys do the bigger events that it might be held on the weekend, but I won't till all of your information is completely public. I don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to.
Currently, I think I can share that one will also fall on Friday. We're not trying to compete. We're not trying to compete with what is currently ingrained in the community. We're not trying to step over anybody, step on any toes. And Friday was an available day, and Friday is a great day to have a tournament. So we're super happy to create content for Fridays. And we're definitely looking to speak with other TOs and stuff and making sure that everything looks good, potentially collabs with other creators in the future. We've got all manner of things on the docket ready to go for Giant Slayer, and this is only the beginning. So as we continue to meme on Twitter, stay tuned.
That actually leads me into another question. Are you still going to be casting with Crowan TFT, or are you stepping away from that?
I've stepped away from the TFT broadcasts. If anybody is a fan of Giant Slayer TFT and they've noticed the past 2 weeks I have not been on the broadcast, it's because I'm no longer part of that broadcast team. I am full-time LOR at this point.
Who took over? I didn't even know yet.
Boopasaurus is actually the one who's going to be casting that. So he runs the Little Legends podcast, the TFT podcast with Blevins. Yeah,
that's what I thought. So, okay, cool. That's really cool. Awesome. Keeping it in the community. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
So take us out, Smithel.
Awesome. Well, again, Casanova, as always, we are super excited that you're able to stop by today. Hopefully, in the future, you'll be able to come in, let us know how the Giant Slayer TV tournaments and everything like that are going, and what else you have on the docket for the future. Because we know you're a busy guy, so thank you very, very, very much for taking an hour out of your night here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. So, if people aren't familiar with you or familiar with Giant Slayer, what would be the best way? And I know you mentioned the Twitter earlier, but what would be the best way to keep up with what you're doing here?
Yeah, so if you want to just follow me specifically, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Casanova Hots. If you want to follow Giant Slayer, which I heavily recommend you follow Giant Slayer if you're interested in Legends of Runeterra, you can find us on Twitter at Giant Slayer LOR. You can find us on Twitch at Giant Slayer TV and YouTube at Giant Slayer LOR as well.
Awesome. Kozer, what about you, buddy?
You can find me at Kozer88 on Twitter, Kozer88 on Twitch, and YouTube is YTKozer88.
Awesome. And then, as always, guys, if you are looking to follow me, the best places to do it are Twitter at Smithel Gaming, or you can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Smithel. If you are interested in the show and you're watching us on one version or another, you can catch the show on Twitter at Poro Weekly is the account that you want to follow. That'll have links to everything and, keep everything up to date with when we're going live, who's going to be on the show, all that good stuff. You can also watch the show live. Sorry, I just heard a random noise here. But if you can follow the show live at twitch.tv/weekly Poro Report. And as always, we do have a Discord channel if you want to come be a part of that and talk to us and see what's going on in the show. That is another opportunity to go ahead and do that. The link will be in the YouTube descriptions or on Twitter. But other than that, guys, we appreciate everybody that stopped by the Twitch stream tonight, provided some chat content, and we will catch you all next week. We will be rating another Mobalytics partner, so if you are staying on, we'd appreciate if you show them a little love and stop by and say hi. So other than that, guys, thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you next week.